John, thank you for that kind introduction. And I'm going to use my glasses here just as I've reached the age of, ripe old age of 50. Good morning, I'm Valerie Gaydos, and as I said, I'm a business owner, and I've made my career supporting small business. And in many ways, not only as a founder of my own company, but also as an investor, an entrepreneur, an advisor, and of course a customer in many respects. Today I'm announcing my candidacy for the Pennsylvania State House of Representatives, District 44. I'm announcing as a business owner and a business advocate for more than 25 years, a third-generation Allegheny County resident, and a lifelong Quaker Valley Republican and Aleppo Township resident. I am eager to take my experience, but mostly my responsibility and accountability to Harrisburg to represent our community. But before I proceed, I really would like to thank a number of people for coming. First of all, Robert Morris University for allowing us to hold this event here today. We definitely appreciate that. Jay Carson is the Senior Vice President of Institutional Advancement who really connected and made that happen. Michelle Gapsky, and Michelle's here. I think Michelle's here. She's the admissions counselor. She's also the advisor to the College Republicans. And of course the College Republicans. And John Locke, who is the RMU Theater Director. I'd like to thank him as well for tying in the theater stuff. I'd like to, as I said, recognize John Zimmerman, who's my campaign chair, and my treasurer was unable to be here today, but I do have checks for him. John Renda, many of you know John Renda, but both John and I spent a lot of time as kids together. I'd also like to recognize Peggy Standish. Thanks for coming, I appreciate that.
My daughter called me with Valerie's class.
Also, committee members Lisa Versella and Rich Kane has been helpful, and hopefully we'll get a number of other folks on board as we're building this committee. So some of you are wondering why here on the campus, and you know, I think this was really important to me because it's a special place, and the reason is that it was part of my childhood. And I remember when this used to be the Kaufman Estate. It was all trees, and but it's where my uncle, Thomas V. Gaydos, was the founding director of the Colonial Theater, and he actually did it in the barn that was up here. He started here almost 50 years ago, and that's the same year that I was born, and it was sort of the first of its kind. So I think, you know, I wanted to tie that together. It was really an integral part of not only Robert Morris Junior College, but also part of the community. And you know, one of the unique stories was that he engaged the community. And one of the folks that his sort of claim to fame was that he gave Robert Keaton his first job when Robert Keaton, I guess Junior Batman, was looking to act, and this was one of the only places that he could, as a child, come in and he'd allow him to take parts in the theater. So despite those humble beginnings, and he was really well educated, and bear with me for a minute to kind of brag about him a little bit, because I think it's a really interesting story. He graduated from Harvard and the Royal Academy of Dramatic Arts, and he was classmates with folks like Albert Finney and Peter O'Toole, but he chose to come right here. A lot of people said, well, why did he come here? And the thing is, he started a community theater in a red barn because he could make a difference. And he stayed here for 30 years until he retired in 1997. So some of you might remember him as the voice of some of the commercials in Pittsburgh. He had a booming voice, and he had these grand entrances that were unforgettable. But when he retired, the institution had honored him in creating an endowed student scholarship for the arts in his name. So there's a Thomas V. Gaydos Endowment for the Arts. So while I'm very proud of this legacy, this is really a story of commitment and community. So, and wait, there's more. I would be remiss if I didn't point out, we're doing this on Valentine's Day, and the V for Thomas V. Gaydos stands for Valentine's, because he was actually born on Valentine's Day. So not only is this the 50th anniversary of the theater, but it's also would have been Uncle Tom's 86th birthday. So happy birthday, theater, and happy birthday, Thomas V. Gaydos. So while this is important to me, I'm really here to tell you why I'm running for the State House. I spent most of my life as an entrepreneur, and I started and owned my own business. And in the later years, I started working with investors and connecting businesses to startups with capital. frankly, I've been playing Shark Tank for the last 20 some years. So I had started my own company, but having been a business founder, and I'd like to think an innovator, I intimately know what business owners and families face when they face a lot, not only in business but in life. So there's tons of taxes and hurdles and healthcare and paperwork. I mean, it can be pretty undaunting. So balancing budgets, hiring employees, operating under lean budgets, and making ends meet, especially in tough times, has really been a part of my experience. So I am not hesitant to take on new challenges. I signed the front of the paycheck, and I spent countless nights worrying about payroll and taking care of employees. So it's real. Over the last decade, business startups in this nation have made up more than 64% of all job growth. And yes, I have been part of this. I built this. States don't simply grow without a vibrant business sector. They also don't grow without education to support it. They don't grow without adequate healthcare. They don't grow without a community that cares about its people, its children, its elderly, and its veterans. I can stand up here and tell you what's wrong with Harrisburg, and so many people do. And don't get me wrong, there's a lot of things that are wrong. But I think that there are a lot of things that need to be discussed in terms of what's the big picture. So the question is what do we really need from government? And what do we want from government? We need sound leadership, and that's something that seems to be lacking. We need good judgment, people with the judgment to know the difference between right and wrong. With fiscal intelligence, people need to know how to read balance sheets and know how to read and balance a budget. I mean, that's most of us who are in business. We got to balance budgets every day, and to look at these guys in Harrisburg who can't balance a budget is just mind-boggling. Most of all, we expect our leaders to be accountable, and to be accountable to you and me, the taxpayer. There needs to be systematic changes made. So I can stand up here and tell you that I'm going to do individual introduction of legislation and stuff, but there are systematic changes that need to be made. We expect our government to be here to make our lives better. We expect a government that serves the people and not the other way around. And we expect government to focus on people's business again, not the business of career politicians. So let me tell you a little bit about myself, because I think the thing is that it's not, I always tell this to entrepreneurs, it's not what you think, it's how you think. And that's when you take this to Harrisburg, I want you to understand how I think, because that's important, because there's going to be challenges every day that change. I'm the granddaughter of Eastern European immigrants, Hungarian, Ukrainian, and Slovak, hardworking people. My grandparents came to this country because of opportunity, and my parents instilled in me the value of good education, the value of gratitude for the American dream, and that's what attracted them here. All this is why I really started my own business, and frankly, in this country, you can. So I'm very thankful to them for making life choices that have made my life better generations later. My parents put me to work at an early age. I worked in my father's office. I did the filing. I actually mopped floors. My mother had a consignment shop in Ambridge, and I worked there too. She taught me entrepreneurship, and that's where I really got the entrepreneurial bug. And while I was in high school, I studied to become an EMT, and I worked in Valley Ambulance. And I see one of my colleagues here, Amos, who worked on the ambulance with me. We spent a lot of time. In fact, the story is that when most of you might not realize that when the barn was built, they did the theater in the barn, and it burned down in 1986. I was actually working on Valley Ambulance, and I think with Amos, and I watched some of my childhood go up in flames. Little story about Uncle Tom teaching about resilience. Of course, he took that opportunity to say in his booming voice, "The show must go on." So, he took that opportunity. So talk about resilience and making things work. And by the way, I didn't get an allowance. My parents made it absolutely clear that I was lucky to be a part of their family, and so I had the responsibilities of just like everybody else as a team player. And by the way, yes, I had to clean the gutters, and that right there should make me qualified to go to Harrisburg. So let me talk a little bit about my government experience and why I think I'm the best person to represent you in Harrisburg. As John Oliver said, that I worked for Senator John Hines. Senator Hines was a persistent defender of the elderly. He strengthened laws addressing people's concern with health insurance, nursing homes, pension plans, and he pushed successfully for trade laws that protected and promoted American products in America. He was one class act, there's no doubt about it. I also worked for Senator Mike Fisher and spent a lot of time understanding how legislation was made. So certainly from both those experiences, I can hit the ground running. What I learned is that if we don't tend to the business of our government, and we don't pay attention to pressing issues like the looming pension crisis and other forms of overspending that we are seeing just rampant in Harrisburg, then Pennsylvania will be out of business. There's no doubt about that. Government expenses keep growing, and for one, it's actually some of the legislators themselves. The legislature spent almost $13 million on expenses just on themselves. And that doesn't even include the salaries and capital purchases, and that's something that needs to be addressed because there are a lot of things that you as constituents, I as a constituent don't get, they should be there doing the people's business. So frankly, that's just all a slap in the face to the hardworking folks here. Government serves the people, and we must make government serve the people again. Another expense that needs to be reined in is healthcare. Healthcare is one of the fastest growing segments of our economy. As an independent business owner, I pay for my own healthcare, and I will tell you it has risen astronomically. Unbelievable. But beyond that, what anyone pays on a financial basis, healthcare, the issue of healthcare remains, or the health of individuals remains on people's mind. Affordability for small business, quality healthcare for aging, skyrocketing assisted living in nursing homes, mountains of paperwork. I mean, it's just unbelievable. We're being drowned by our own system. Taking care of our loved ones are paramount, and managing healthcare can be challenging, and I certainly understand that. Having gone through that a couple of times, unfortunately, I've experienced that. I've lost 3 loved ones. My brother Daniel died of lymphoma at age 34. Lost my husband to lung cancer in 2002. And my mom recently passed away from Parkinson's. But advocating for loved ones, which everybody has those challenges, I know exactly how confusing it is, how exhausting it is. And getting prescriptions, pre-authorizations, hours in the hospital, medical procedures, and just spending hours on the phone trying to write letters to figure it all out. And of course, making tons of mistakes along the way. Goodness, I mentioned to someone the other day, I said, it's like getting to make sure your bills are paid on time, getting your car inspected. Sometimes I didn't even know how I even had time to do that. And I was very fortunate to have a business that I could take the time off and spend with my mother. Like I said, is the innocent mistakes that people make along the way when they're taking care of such a challenge. So I have lived this, and this is really about people, not about numbers. Right now, Pennsylvania's export seems to be its people. Education is the foundation of everything, and we must pay closer attention to our educators as well as educational institutions. Pennsylvania overall has some of the highest number of educational institutions, and we have this terrific institution right here in this district. In a state with so many impressive higher education institutions, we should not lose all these talented students. And this is why it's all about jobs, and what creates jobs is a vibrant economy where people can build their businesses. To make our community stronger, I'm a strong believer in integrating education with real life experience. I think that we need to combine education with business in the sense that, I can say from a personal experience, I created something called the fellowship program, where we took angel investors, combined them with students, and we gave entrepreneurs, or we gave students real life experience with entrepreneurship. I think there's nothing that beats immersing oneself in a business to actually learn how to do it. So our community. So in District 44, number 44, there are approximately 70,000 residents. We have Republicans, Democrats, and Independents, business owners and customers, students and teachers, parents and families, working and retired, veterans and civilians. I care about each and every one of them and what they envision for this community. We have assets. We have the airport, Robert Morris University, the 9/11 Airlift Wing, the Air Force Reserve Command, and wonderful physical environment. We have some of the best local parks and nature preserves like Robin Hill and Boone and Fern Hollow and Swigley, Chartiers Creek, and a ton of biking and walking trails. This is a really fabulous community. We have it all right here. And I wish to preserve it. I wish to preserve what's right. So in conclusion, the bottom line here is that this is really all about community. It's about building and growing things, being creative on how we fix things and make them better. And it comes down to values. My mission here today was to demonstrate to you not what I think, but how I think, because I think that I will govern with responsibility, with accountability, and with respect for others. And on this Valentine's Day, I guess I have to say with heart. I'm a conservative, tried and true, and I've been all my life. I'm pro-life, pro-growth, pro-business, and I'm an avid defender of the Constitution. I believe in the Second Amendment, and of course the First Amendment greatly, having several publications, and having great respect for people who speak the truth. I do not believe in cutting corners, because I think that's what makes our country unique. Simply put, I'm a very pro-American dream, and I believe in personal liberties and protecting that without the burdens of government. That's something what our ancestors really strove for when they came here. Anyone who knows me knows I am mission-oriented. I am not afraid to take on new challenges, and I've never hesitated to call it like it is, although sometimes I think I get in trouble for that, sometimes often. I am a problem solver and I fix things. In my experience of building businesses and actually creating jobs in clean environments, which I have done, I learned the value of hard work, and I plan to take that to Harrisburg. I plan to help make government your business in a responsible, decisive, and accountable way. So over the next couple of weeks, I hope to continue to work hard to earn your trust and confidence, and prove to you that I'm the best choice in running a clean issues and value-based campaign. So thank you for coming, and vote Valerie Gaydos.
Yes.
And I guess we want to do, what is it, text vote Val to 22333, and we'll get you on our list. So thank you very much.